then today I woke up to see that once again, much like the last time I was on, I got a response from Sam Harris, which I do just, I guess it's my guilty pleasure or whatever, but it's like I know on some level that Sam Harris is like just totally humiliated himself and is kind of irrelevant. But at the same time, the thing on Twitter like blew the fuck up and it was trending and it was a whole thing. So it's kind of like, well, I can't not respond.
He also
Like,
still talks like he's the world authority. He lays it out there as if you need to respond to him.
Yeah, it really, well, that is true. So maybe I'm falling into his trap, but I do just, I responded with just one like little jab on Twitter. And then, then I get people going like, oh, well, actually respond to what he's saying or something like that. So like, okay, here we go. Even though he's not saying much, it's like, there's something guilty about, it just feels like every time he says something about me, I just find myself in the position of feeling like I'm dunking on a retarded third grader. And then you dunk on a retarded third grader once, and it's like, I don't know, it's like being a cannibal. Like you get a taste for it, and you're like, that's the most fun thing I've ever done in my life. But it does feel like probably I should, be trying against someone a little bigger. But like, I don't know, it's Sam Harris. So like, fuck it, I guess I got to respond to it. Anyway,
sometimes the retarded third grader doesn't even know that you dunked on him, so it's no harm, no foul. Everyone feels good about it. Yeah.
I guess there you go. So anyway, I should tell you, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode. I do apologize for that, but I got to rush out. I got to get something to eat and then get to these shows, and then I got a early flight in the morning. But so let's start with this. Let's just play the Sam Harris clip, and then we could tear it apart.
Joe is a genuinely good guy who wants good things for people, but he is honestly in over his head on so many topics of great consequence, right? When he brings someone on to just shoot the shit about, how the Holocaust is not what you think it was, right? And maybe Churchill's the bad guy in World War II.
Just pause it already.
Or he's got Dave Smith,
Here, pause it and bring it back a little bit so we could hear the part about me. But like, it's just there's just no other way to like describe this. It is intense dishonesty. I mean, just like it again, it's the thing that I always say, like I was really confronted with when I debated Chris Cuomo. I've been, I've had this experience like on Twitter and stuff like that, but that kind of almost feels like it's a whole different beast. But there is something about like that. I think a lot of people who are decent people, or regular people, almost have a tough time because there is like a naivete that comes along with innocence or something like that, where you're just like, oh, you're just a fucking liar. You're just very comfortable just lying through your teeth. Like, who are you talking about here? He's alluding to Daryl Cooper, I guess, but like, has Daryl Cooper ever gone on a show and told you to rethink the Holocaust? The Holocaust wasn't really what it was. Like, nobody's done that. The point, which by the way, I made the point, just by the way, the craziest part of on Rogan. So I say on the show, and I was like, yo, I'm like totally making this so clear that no one's going to be able to fuck with what I'm saying right now because I'm making such a narrow point. But I went, look, like, when Daryl Cooper was on Tucker Carlson's show, the thing he said that generated all this outrage was he goes, I say this to my buddy sometimes to kind of prod at him, and he's an Anglo, so he takes this stuff personally, and I'm being hyperbolic when I say it, but I say to him, I go, Churchill was the real villain of the war. And then he caveats it again and goes, now I'm not saying he committed the most atrocities or killed the most people, but he was most responsible from this thing going from being a war in Poland to being the worst thing that ever happened in the history of the world that we now know as World War II. And then everyone who responds to that goes, he said Churchill was the real villain of the war. And you're like, this is just already so dishonest. Like, when someone says they're being hyperbolic, the point he's clearly making is like, Churchill mishandled the war. Okay, so take on that argument. But then anyway, people still just clipped that and went, Dave saying Churchill was the real villain. Like, like, Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, the levels of dishonesty are just crazy. But Sam will just go a step further and go, he's telling people to question the Holocaust. Just made it up. He knows that's not true. He knows nobody said that. Ian Carroll didn't say that. Daryl Cooper didn't say that. Has anyone ever gone on Joe Rogan's show and said, hey, listen, man, let's really look into this. Like, the numbers don't add up to 6 million or something like that. Has that ever happened? No, it's never happened. But they'll just say that intentionally to just poison the well so that you already think of this as just like, oh, these are really bad people who are clearly sympathetic to Adolf Hitler and clearly don't believe, like, either they don't believe he committed these crimes or they're all for that he committed these crimes. You know, it's just, I don't know what else to say about it. Just intensely dishonest because he's a liar. I don't know. Let's keep playing.
Or two.
Is that Tucker?
Or he's got Dave Smith, you know, being treated as an expert on Israel and Palestine and the history of that conflict and the moral emergency that came to the world's attention on October 7th, and what is appropriate to think in the aftermath of all of that, right? Dave Smith is the only reason why anyone knows what Dave Smith thinks about any of this is very likely because Joe had him on multiple times to talk about it, right? You know, he's a pure misinformation artist and you know, on top of many others.
Okay.
And when Joe talks to someone like
Okay. I'm a pure misinformation artist. I mean, Sam just started this with a fucking blatant lie. I mean, why is that not misinformation? Like, goddamn, like, hasn't that term just been discredited enough along with Sam Harris and his fucking reputation? But like, I'm the disinformation, I'm the misinformation, what did he say? Specialist? Okay, I mean, artist. Okay, you just started this by saying that who is questioning the Holocaust? So how am I pushing misinformation? And then, you know, look, like I said about this last time when he does the exact same thing, it's like, I mean, look, I'm not the expert. I'm not. And if people have a perception about me that I'm like the expert on the history of Israel Palestine, where like, I mean, I don't know, I'm explicitly telling you that I'm not. And so if you have that impression, then I don't know what to say. But, you know, the thing about it is that really, I don't have to be the expert because it's really easy to poke holes in Sam Harris and other liars' bullshit. I just know enough to poke holes in all your bullshit. That's essentially it. You don't need to be an expert to do that. In the same way as I wasn't a fucking, you know, a virologist, but I could tell you that Sam Harris was full of shit the whole time about COVID. You know, I could tell you that lockdowns were going to have way bigger costs than benefits because you don't really need to be an expert to do that. And what he means when he says that, you know, I'm presented as an expert is me and Joe have conversations. That's really what's happening here. He's furious about it because the shit I'm saying is resonating with people. I do have really good arguments. And you don't have to be an expert to have really great arguments, as it turns out. I'm proof of that. And so, you know, then for him to go on and say that, so this was the only thing I said on Twitter, that I was like, Sam is correct, that the only reason people know who I am is because of Joe Rogan. And I said I really should have earned it the good old fashioned way by having my mother create the Golden Girls. I just do think there's something funny about, you know, someone born with a silver spoon telling somebody else who's like a self-made guy that they really aren't. The only reason anyone knows who you are is because of Joe Rogan. It's like, first of all, that's a huge reason why people know who you are, Sam Harris. That's also like, so what? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Joe Rogan blew me up. That is true. Okay. The only reason why people know who Jerry Seinfeld is because of Johnny Carson. You know, and the only reason why people know who almost everybody is because they got some type of break. But the point is, then you got to do something with it. And so if I hadn't done, there's lots of people who have been on Rogan who didn't, you know, like get a big audience afterward because they didn't do anything with the opportunity. So anyway, it's all just so pathetic and stupid But you're like, hey, if I'm such a misinformation artist, Sam, so take on one thing I said. Like, it's unbelievable these people don't feel the need. Like, they think they could still play in this dumb old game where you just smear someone, but you have nothing. So fucking take on one thing I said. It should be easy since I'm, you know, maybe I'm just such a talented artist that you can't figure it. But like, what's the misinformation? What have I gotten wrong?